if you don't have a greenhouse. If you want to grow all year round, you have to have something to protect you from the elements. So that's why I got my greenhouse. But the reason I didn't build it on your spec is because I don't have the technical understanding to do it. And so that's why we purchased one. And so I can totally see the value of it, but I see how far I have to come because your system is extremely efficient.
And that's a key word. It's a system. And so everything is dependent on those 6 laws. And so before I plant these plants here, I ask myself, are they going to be ending up taller than these plants over here?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can see these plants aren't as dense as the plants in the back. So we planted the plants on the north side that are going to be taller and thicker.
Mm-hmm.
And we planted the shorter plants and the younger plants on the south side, so they're not going to be shadowing the north side.
This is amazing. Well, and I see that on your other side, even though they're not getting any shade because they're next to the wall, your lettuce is on the other side. So if it did get shade, lettuce doesn't care quite as much about getting shaded as, say, your onions or
Right.
your peppers.
Right. So the what was typically called cool loving plants, which are really non-fruit producing plants, were growing on the north side.
Mm.
So you want your fruit to be able to ripen with the sun. Since we're growing lettuce and cabbage and those kind of things that aren't developing fruit, they don't need as much sun for ripening.
I could just live in here.
We do.
I bet you spend so much time here in the winter. You're just like,
We do
it's
bring
a sauna.
chairs in here, and we have dinner in here on Sundays.
Oh, I bet you do.
It is wonderful. Yeah.
And your beets are enormous. Look at that. Look at that big beet.
Yeah, we've harvested most of the beets. This is a new one. It's probably about 3 weeks old. When the broccoli came out, we put new beets in here.
Oh, they're beautiful. I am so inspired.
And you can see everything's healthy, and all we do is feed it once a week. Matter of fact, today is feeding day, so if you want, I'll show you how I feed.
Oh, I would love that. Because I felt like that was kind of the part that I didn't get when I tried it before was the, do you pre-mix it yourself?
Yeah, so I'll show you over here. So here, this is what I keep in the greenhouse for nutrients. I have my weekly feed, which is a mixture of all-purpose fertilizer, natural mineral fertilizer, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So I take 25 pounds of that. I add 4 pounds of Epsom salts to that, and then I add a Mittleider micronutrient pack, which is available on mittleidergardening.com. And that provides all the other micronutrients that you can't get local, like copper, molybdenum, manganese, iron, and those other trace elements that are so critical. So then I've got nitrogen, so whenever I transplant a plant, I give it some nitrogen to help over the shock. And then I have a pre-plant fertilizer mix, which is here in Idaho we use gypsum, and then Epsom salts and borax to help the plants germinate and to pre-treat the soil. And then this is phosphorus because I found here in Idaho there's a phosphorus deficiency in the soils and even in the sawdust and the sand that we use.
Really?
And so I just give it some phosphorus when the plants turn purple. So all of my beds are 30 feet long. This can I already weighed, so I marked a line on here for 15 ounces of weekly feed because we add ½ an ounce per linear foot. I also added a line here of the pre-plant fertilizer for a 30-foot bed. And I just scoop in here. Get the pre-mixed all-purpose fertilizer, Epsom salts, and the Mittleider micronutrients to that line. And then I have to hit this one. Left finger.
Me too. So it works for southpaws.
It does. And then we want to put the nutrients about 4 inches away from the plants, which is right where my watering line is. And so I just come through. This nutrient mix, somebody asked me about a month or two ago what the cost to fertilize using this, so I added up the cost I bought some 16-16-16 at Home Depot. I bought some Epsom salts at Walmart. And then the micronutrient mix from MidAtlanticGardening.com.
Mm-hmm.
So I added up the cost for all that, and I'm growing these tomatoes for 2 cents a pound.
Wow.
My total fertilizer cost to feed those each week. So everybody gets fed the same. It's sort of like when you set the table, you make dinner for everybody, right?
And then do they just take what they want from it?
Then they take what they need, and if they need more, they'll ask Mom, can I have seconds?
And you'll tell by color.
And
Color and...
Yes. The plants will tell you that if there's a deficiency, if they need more. Okay, so I just ran out a little bit there, so I'm going to take a little bit more. So I put down a little bit more than I need to. That's the problem, because I just ran out. Now these are getting really large here. And there's my pollinator.
She made it in.
She comes in every day.
Have you noticed that the bumblebees love yellow flowers?
I do.
Because we have Siberian pea shrubs that we have covered in bumblebees, but no honeybees.
Yeah, I see the honeybees. I see the honeybees outside, but not so much inside.
Yeah. Is that interesting?
And so that's how I fertilize once a week.
See if I can get a shot of that. That's pretty amazing. The internals of the squash are so big that he's having to kind of crawl around them. That was really something.
Okay, now, as much as I like having the pollinators in my greenhouse, I always hand pollinate my cucumbers or my squashes and melons.
Okay.
So here we've got 2 females that are open this morning. Here's a female squash. You can tell because the baby's behind it.
Oh, okay.
And here are some males. You can tell because there's no baby behind it. Here's a male blossom that opened and closed before we could use it. See, there's some pollen there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I usually get my breakfast.
You know, I've heard that that's really good if you put goat cheese in it too. And then saute them.
And then I just take this here. And make sure that they all get fertilized.
That's fantastic.
So there's one. Let me see if this is a male down here. Typically you'll get about 7 male flowers before you get any female flowers.
Really?
So if you're getting a bunch of blossoms and no fruit, don't worry about it. First of all, you have to be able to identify that it is a male flower because there's no baby behind it.
Okay.
And then second of all, just realize that these plants put on about 7 males before they will put on a female.
Well, and I bet you have amazing non-allergy problems from eating that because it still has a little pollen on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any allergies, fortunately. So the female's wide open here. I'll just go in and take the stamen and the pestle and put them all together, the pistil, and there we go. Amazing. So I know for sure that those are pollinated. So as she opens up, I will find another male and pollinate. Now we've had a lot of males on these flowers open up before the females did.
Mm-hmm.
And over on the butternut squash we had a bunch of females and the males had already opened up and closed. So I took the male pollen from over here and pollinated the squash over there.
Okay.
That won't make any difference on today's fruit. It would
Because
make
you're not
a
saving
difference.
seeds.
Right. It would make a difference on the second generation, but not the first. But this way I ensure that they get pollinated.
This is gorgeous.
So,
oh, and you have summer squash already. Look at that.
That's zucchini.
Yeah.
And we're growing it vertically. See, it's coming straight up.
Holy cow, how strong does it have to be to hold up a squash plant?
Well, we'll get 30, 40 pounds of tomatoes on a tomato plant too. But we recommend the smallest weight for baler twine is 170 pounds.
Is it? So you can just use
it for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about setting the table for everybody and then some wanting more than others. We were gone for a week. I came back and noticed that this is green on the end.
And yellow.
Then we lost the green. And so that's an indication that that needs magnesium.
Magnesium. And that's the Epsom salts, right?
That's the Epsom salt. And there's several different shades of yellow.
Okay.
This is one of the shades of yellow. This has yellowing splotches, but the veins are green. That means it needs magnesium. So I gave it some Epsom salts, and look at the leaves.
They're recovering very quickly, it looks like.
So the plants will tell you if they need seconds.
I have some that have that, the green veins and the yellow around them, so now I know what to go put on them.
And so I just looked under the fertilizing section in the Mid-Atlantic Gardening Course book and told them exactly how much to put down per linear foot. I just sprinkled it underneath my water pipe, watered it in, and it took what it needed.
And along that line, I just remembered seeing this. Is this your watering system?
It is.
Do you mind explaining it?
Yeah. So over here, this is stuff out here.
Okay.
So this is my source of water. This is my source of water. This goes down and has the plunger 4 feet below ground so it doesn't freeze. So when we excavated to put in the Geo-Air tubes underneath, we tapped into that. So that's our source of water.
Okay.
Then I brought the water up, and I have a ball valve here.
Okay.
So if I need to turn the water off for any particular reason, I can turn the water off very easily there.
Okay.
And then here at the base of the watering, I have a sprinkler timer. So I have 4 growing areas, so I have 4 sprinkler timers. All this is bought at Home Depot. And then I have a sprinkler controller. And it just comes on at 7 o'clock in the morning. It'll run for 1 minute.
Wow. So it's not like a total drip system where it's only a teeny bit. That's why you can do it for 90 seconds, right? Is because it's actually putting enough water out.
And I can see how much water it's putting out. It's watering below the leaves so the plants aren't getting wet.
Oh.
I'm only watering right here. I'm not watering the whole aisle area and everything.
So you're not encouraging weeds.
And where do I put my nutrients?
Right at the base of the plants.
Right here below the watering line. And so when this turns on and I've just fertilized for the day, it will dissolve those water-soluble nutrients. So it does a lot of things. It's above ground, so it doesn't get clogged with dirt.
Right.
It's not soft plastic, so if I hit it with a tool or something, it's not going to nick it and break it.
Right.
It'll last 20 years.
Yeah, it's right there in 90 seconds, and it would saturate it if you have some really good stream coming through there.
Yeah. So zone 1 is done now, and so automatically zone 2 turns on.
That is phenomenal. And I don't want to sound too impressed about this, but I'm so impressed about this because with drip systems, it's hard to saturate the soil because it drips. And so you have to have it going for 4 hours in order to water your plants. So I've never heard of anybody doing it in 90-second increments and having it saturate.
Yeah. I actually have it go for 60 seconds.
Is it 60 seconds?
And as the plants get larger and they're producing more fruit and it gets hotter, then I will do it twice a day or 3 times a day. I simply look at the plants, and if they're wilting, they need water.
Well, and because you don't have it on the leaves, you're not having a huge amount of evaporation. It's all in the soil.
Right.
I water once a week because I fill the bed up once a week with my watering, and it holds the water, but I have a lot of evaporation. A lot. Your greenhouse is much less muggy than mine.
So
That
over here
is
we just put down the
amazing.
nutrients, right?
Yeah.
So you can see how this automatic watering system comes right down on the nutrients and will dissolve those nutrients. So every day they get fed and watered.
Because it takes it's a slow release. It's
well, it's not exactly a slow release, but because it is not all of the nutrients are getting watered every day. So some will dissolve today, some will tomorrow, and so forth. So it's very little work, very little cost, and as you can see,
it's like a miracle.
Like I said, it's a system. You can't just build a box and grow in it.
Right.
You can't just build a greenhouse and grow in it.
Right.
You have to follow the entire system.
And do you come in and rake to keep weeds down, or is your foot traffic enough to keep your weeds down?
I will get weeds right here. So what happens is 1 minute a day, it will saturate the soil and any extra water will come out at the bottom. And so that's usually moist around the edges, and that's where the weeds are. But right here...
Because you're walking it on the... It's too compacted.
Yeah. And over here, occasionally we'll get some weeds where we don't walk, and I just hit it with the Kenyan two-way hoe, and that takes care of it too.
Well, and because you don't have a huge amount of water in the system, they have to go all the way from outside to get over into your bed.
Yeah, you notice where they are. They're right where the